Back in 2018, I was looking to get a air-cooled 911, and it seemed like the market had spiked, and every hipster and their brother decided that the air-cooled 911s were the cars to have. And you know, if you paid 20-25 grand for one, it didn't even run. So I started looking at the liquid cooleds. I had a buddy who had a 996, talked to him. We were talking about 996s, 997s, Boxsters. I found this particular 997 at a dealership in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I live outside of Chicago. I live in Lombard, Illinois. Called him up, told my buddy about it. He's like, you know, do you know any history? And I said, no, the only thing I know is it's got 115,000 miles on it, and they're asking like 30,000. And he said, all right, let's go take a look at it. Went and looked at it. Was gonna get a PPI. My buddy flogged the car on the way to the mechanic shop. The salesman was beside himself. We got to the mechanic shop. The salesman said, regardless of the outcome of the PPI, we're not budging on the price. So we went back to the dealership. I was like, all right, Glenn, let's go. I don't need this car. And the salesman's like, what do I got to do to get you walk out of here today? I'm like, dude, no, we're not. It's not happening. No deal. Ended up picking the car up for $25,000, knowing that I was going to need to replace a motor at some point. I got to talk to the original owner. It was a one-owner car. Guy sold it because he couldn't operate the clutch anymore. 70 years old. Still had the original clutch on it. So at 124,000 miles, I got the dreaded piston slap. Called up Jake looking to unload the car. We went back and forth. Jake said, you know, I've got a stage 2 motor ready to go. Had a other customer back out. He's like, you get your car down here and I'll put the motor in your car. So when I got the car, you know, I knew it was tired. It had 115,000 miles on it, but there was no indication of IMS bearing failure. It was a one-owner car, older gentleman. You know, first 3 years he had the car, he averaged 20,000 miles on it. It was a lease car. Initially, he bought out the lease, and then he was just averaging about 5,000 miles a year, running back and forth between Indiana and Florida. So it had a combination of warm weather and cold weather exposure. Anyway, bought the car knowing it was going to need an engine at some point in time, or it was going to need something significant at some point in time. At 124,000 miles, I had to send it to Jake. And I had never driven a 911 before. I had driven a Boxster before, and it was fun, it was cool, but 911 was like, always seemed to be an unattainable dream. And I was mildly impressed with the power when I first got the car, but when I got the car back from Jake, it was no longer the same. It wasn't the same car. It was a monster. I mean, it just pulled harder, and you know, the seat of the pants tachometer was, you know, off the scale. It was awesome. But yeah, I paid every bit as much for the engine as I paid for the car. But these aren't small block Chevys that you can buy parts at your local grocery store for. This is a specialty motor. This is a specialty car. You know, it's your entry level into the supercars or hypercars, whatever they call them. But yeah, no, I no regrets doing it. I'm a retired firefighter, and I always preached as a firefighter and as an officer, you never stop learning. And a week before I retired, a week before my last day on the job, I was in school. And coming to this class, I would have loved to have been able to be here with Jake when he built the motor, but it was COVID, and obviously that wasn't possible. So I drove 800 miles, drove my car here 800 miles, 1, to meet Jake, and 2, to learn.